Okay, let's draw. If you remember, we left off here. Okay, one of the first things I want to do now is I'm going to grab this picture and grab it on the X. We're going to put it way back here somewhere. So we might need it again, but I don't think we do. But anyway, we'll put this back in the back here. Deselect with A. Okay. And the other thing is our buoy. I accidentally had moved it when we were drawing last time, so we're going to push Shift C. I'm going to push Shift C. If you accidentally reselect that buoy, unless you want it somewhere else on purpose, there's sometimes I actually bring in objects not into the middle, like when I'm drawing a ship that's in the middle of the hull, so I don't like to put objects in the middle of the hull sometimes. So you push Shift C and it brings us back, and then you notice our top isn't lined up, so we'll reline our top up. And I forgot to put the phone in the drawer. Okay, let's come to the one. Let's add a cylinder. And let's push the T, and this cylinder, as we can see, this cylinder has 32 sides, and we don't really need 32 sides. That's a little too much. We can probably bring this down to, 24 wouldn't be bad, but let's go with 20. And let's push our T, and then let's rotate this on the Y, RY, push the 9-0. Okay, let's grab it on the X, and let's put it right about there. And let's scale this on the X. Let's bring this down to about there. Let's grab it on the X. Let's bring it more forward. I don't quite want it into the front of that yet. Okay. Let's go to full screen. Gives me a little bit more room to play with this thing. Look at it. Okay, let's go to edit mode. Push our Z. Let's deselect with the A. Okay. Now, I think what I want to do, I want to grab the whole thing again. Let's scale it. Let's just flat scale it, and let's bring it down closer. Right about there. Let's grab it on the X. Let's bring it in now. We're going to bring this in right about here. And let's scale it again. I want that top corner right about where that, right where you can kind of see a shadow at the top. I want to go right outside of the real solid color and just kind of into the shadow. Okay, let's deselect this. And I want to keep my center line centered on this. If you can keep that center line centered, it makes life a lot easier sometimes when you draw something. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to box this. And I'm going to grab it on the Z. Actually, I'm not sure I want to do that. Yeah, I do want to do that because that's kind of how the airplane is shaped. So let's grab it on the Z. And then let's match that line up there. Like that. Let's push A. And then one trick I can kind of use. I can actually grab these two here, grab them on the Z and bring them back up a little bit. I want to compromise a little bit in the middle. See what that looks like. Okay. Come back to the 1. And Z again. Okay, box. Grab on the Z. And actually, let's right click it. Let's catch this whole thing. Let's grab on the Z. Let's bring that whole thing down to where you can kind of see where it's coming out there. Which actually is going to make it kind of a pain in the butt. Okay. Because I didn't notice that little break in the bottom where it looks like they have the body coming out flat and then all of a sudden curving. So what we would do to fix that is we could either loop cut it, which I'm not going to loop cut it, or we can just grab this whole thing here. Let's grab it to the X. Let's bring it forward right to that little break on the bottom actually. Let's deselect. And let's box in these 3 that we grabbed before. And actually, let's grab all of these. And let's grab it on the Z and let's bring it down to mate up there right at that point. So now if you look at this, we have our very beginning in here where you would, and actually the real airplane probably stuck in here a little bit more. This probably actually came into probably a little closer to almost center in here because that's where the engine mated, maybe a little bit further back. They probably had a big mount thing in there so you can bolt the engine on it. We can look at pictures of that later because we can always play around, stretch that out, which is not really super important because, like I said, on this model we're gonna put a phony, basically a phony shield in here anyway to put our UV map where we can put the picture of the engine in here, and then we're going to have a 3D modeled hub coming out to hold the propeller shaft and the prop on here. So anyways, this is the start of our aircraft body. Let's box this. Okay, let's push, this time we're going to push E for extrude, and then we're going to push X because we want to constrain it to the X-axis, and let's bring this right about here, right about in front of that. Actually, I think I'm going to come to this first seam line here. And then I'm going to back it out of here. We're going to push scale to the Z. And we're going to, I'm actually going to match that bottom up a little bit. And I might have to probably, I'm going to right click it. We're going to grab this to the X. We're going to come back about halfway. I didn't really want to. I'm trying to save vertices, but anywhere where you really have curved shapes, sometimes you have to just put them in there. Okay, let's try this one. Let's scale to the Z. And let's mate the bottom. Let's make this bottom more or less line up. Okay. Let's push A. Let's grab these top 3 here. Grab to the Z. Let's bring them down along that line there. Alright, about. See, and you notice the shadow on top of the airplane. The shadow kind of disappears as you get towards the window, so that's why I'm not wanting to. Let's look at that. That's looking pretty good. Let's look from the top. Okay. That's what I thought. Looks good from the Looks good from the bottom or from the side, but the top is just totally straight. So push Z and let's box in these vertices right here. Let's scale to the Y, push SY, and let's compromise. Well, you kind of use the bottom. We'll just go just a tad outside the bottom. Okay. Click. And let's deselect. Let's box select the very front. And then let's scale to the Y. Let's bring that in just a smidgen so that we have some taper coming out of there. And then let's box the back. Let's scale Y. Right about there. Let's look at that, and then from there, still looks good. Let's take a 3D angle of it. And that's pretty cool, because this is how this airplane actually worked with this cowling. The way it was mounted on here is it was an air-cooled engine, so your air would rush around your cylinders in here and then blow all that heat. It didn't have a radiator, so it actually blew all that heat up around through this shroud, around the aircraft body. Okay. Now again, another thing we can do here a little bit is we can put Z and we can box. We can grab these three vertices here a little bit, grab on the Z, move them down just a little bit. Actually, if you notice, I got that top one, it's pretty much lined. Okay. You can actually do this separate. We can grab it on the Z. We can bring that up just to here. And then we can grab this one here. Grab Z, bring it down. You can almost kind of round out your okay, let's see how that is, because you're going to have a little bit of, it would be, like I said, it would be kind of like if you were stretching sheet metal in real life. It's going to have, and I think that looks pretty good. And once we smooth it out and UV map it and stuff, it won't even be noticeable. Okay, and I'm gonna try to shorten this video down. I have a kind of a nasty habit of going about 35 minutes, which I guess isn't too bad. It's getting most of it drawn, but let's see. Oopsie. Left click. If you start to do something and you change your mind, usually you left click, or you sometimes you actually got to Control Z to go back one. But usually if you left click or you have something out of place and you right click, it puts it back in place. So let's push Z again, and let's go box. Let's box this in. Let's push E for extrude on the X. Let's come right to the seam line. Yeah, okay. Oh, and what I wanted to do, if we go to 7, we go to the top. Now see, we're just in front of the seam line on the top picture. Like I said, this top picture and the bottom picture is, or the side picture, are as close as I could get them to scale, basically using the eyeball, but they're not exact. And so they're hand drawings. They're not even computer 3D stuff. They're actually hand drawings. Okay, let's scale this to the Y and get that little body taper we want. Okay, and it's kind of a curve, so you don't want the lines exactly perfectly lined up, or they would skew off. So I'm thinking right about there. Okay, let's go to the 1. Okay, now I could scale this, but I don't think I'm going to scale. Yeah, actually, I think I'm going to scale it for the top. Scale on the Z, and you can we can either scale the top or the bottom. Sometimes they kind of jive up. This time they're actually not jiving too much. They're pretty close though. So I think we'll go more for the bottom. We'll click there, and I'm kind of guessing because of this this float support rod's coming right up in here, and we got a big connecting point right there. And I might have to dig my model out and definitely look at some pictures, see how they have that connected coming out. Okay, I'm going to push A, and this time I think I'm going to grab this one. We're going to grab it on the Z. We're going to bring it down a hair to kind of line it up. The one above it's actually not too bad. And then these two, we're going to grab these top two. We're going to grab it on the Z, and we're going to bring it down just a smidgen. There we go. Oh, and then another thing what I would like to do, which, and I'll show you why too. If we come down here, if you remember our little vertice box and edge select and face select that's in the center on the top of the ribbon at the bottom here, we're going to click face mode. We're going to select this face, we're going to click delete, and we're going to click face. Now sometimes what happens is you end up having, depending on how you extrude it, it should drag the face with it, but sometimes you would end up having, if you did this 20 times for, say, the whole length of this airplane, you'd have 20 faces in here. And that might not be a problem because it isn't any more vertices, but I don't want the face. We're actually drawing this like this is an aircraft body, so we're making a tube right now. And to have this tube like this, I do want to leave the front face on here though. But we want to get rid of this face coming along as we're drawing this. Okay. Okay, we go back to vertex mode by pushing the little square in the center top ribbon with the dot on it. And if you put the cursor over it, it shows it says vertex select. Shift for multiple modes. We don't want to use multiple modes. And we're going to put Z again. And we're going to box this. We're going to look from the top. We already did that. Okay. And I usually kind of like, when I'm working on my ships, I usually kind of like to work from the top down, not the side and then the top. I usually go from the top first. So we're going to push E for extrude again. We're going to push the X, and we're going to bring this, and since it's a curve, like I said, if it was kind of a straight line, when we get this straight of this, we can actually drag it more and more depending on the shape. But since how we're still kind of in the round mode. Okay, we're going to shift Y. We're going to mate that up to the body, which is, if you notice, I'm actually more or less going off the top instead of the bottom. The bottom, I've kind of got the little space, but that's alright. We'll click there, and we'll go to the 1. Okay, scale to the Z. And this time I think I'm going to mate my top up more so than my bottom. Actually, the bottom looks like it's pretty darn close. I would just say maybe I'll grab this and zoom in a little bit. Okay, so we'll grab that. Oops, grab it. To Z. I messed it up. Okay, I right-clicked it to get my circle back. Grab Z. There we go. I just want to bring it down just just microscopically. Okay. Push A. And I think that looks pretty good. We had it from the top already. Okay. Let's do one more here right quick. See. Box it. And extrude E to the X. Let's come right in front of this window line. Okay. Now this one, I'm going to show you a little trick here. We're going to scale this to the Y, And we're going to stretch out our little body here. Right about there. Okay, and if you notice, these dots are almost to the corner of this windscreen, except for the way it's drawn again. Like our picture is either just a... I think we'll go to object mode. Z. Deselect. We're going to grab this picture and we're going to come down here. We're going to grab this picture on the Y and we're going to just bump it just right about there. Which actually put our windshield almost centered where we want it, but if you notice, the body now lines up more on the bottom and not on the top, but we can work with that. I'm just kind of concerned about this front part, because we're actually going to draw this canopy in. The first airplane I drew was the Saran, which is much bigger than this, and actually had probably going to have way more vertices than this one, but not by a lot, because this is actually a pretty complex little shape. The Saran's a lot smoother in some areas, so it didn't require as much. But it had a fairly complex canopy system too, and it was... This canopy seems way more in line. The canopy on the Saran's very funky shaped. But I drew the body of the airplane first, then I drew the canopy on it after that. And I think what I've learned is on this one is as I go back, I'm actually going to draw this canopy in while it, in conjunction with the body. And I'm also going to draw in our cockpit. I'm going to make our cockpit in here as we go down the body of this thing, and I think that would be much easier than trying to draw the thing in after the fact, because it ends up being a big pain in the butt. It'd almost be better to make the canopy, or make the cockpit and the canopy, and draw the plane around it, or the body around it. But okay, what I was wanting to point out though, go back into edit mode right quick, is we more or less have this. And I want to box, select this, box, select this. Let's push scale to the Y, and we're going to bring this back in. We're going to bring this to the corners of this canopy. Okay. And then we need to... Oh. We need to go Z, we need to go box. Let's go scale to the Z. Bring that up just a little bit. Okay. Let it off. Let's grab these bottom two down here. Grab Z. Not too much, just a little bit. And again, if you notice, the top picture, we're right up to the edge of this canopy. The side picture, we're not up to the canopy. The canopy's still a couple inches back, so we'll go Z so we can see our stuff. We'll go back into object mode, deselect that, and we're going to click on this picture, and we're going to grab it on the x-axis, and we're going to bring it right there. And because the area of the plane we're working on right now is this canopy and stuff, so even though it kind of messed up our front end with our cowling, we're not worried about that at the moment. We can shift that around. So when you have two scale pictures and they're not exactly synced up with each other, and sometimes you got to bump the stuff around for the reference. So that's a lot closer. If we look now, and I'm still not convinced, because we're right on the edge of that. And if we go to 1, we still don't look like we're exactly on the frame, but we're closer. So we still not we still might move this just a hair, grab and X, and like right about there. That looks more realistic. The only thing where that kind of bugs me though is that, no, the bottom's pretty close. The body still seems to be there. It's just that it seems like he drew it a little bit longer on the side than he did on the top. So I don't know if he had reference lines, or if he just, this might actually be somewhat freehand artistry. Okay, you get on with this. Like I said, I tend to make these a half an hour long, and they shouldn't be that way. Let's go back to let's select, and let's go back to edit mode right quick. And this is what I'm wanting to show you. Okay, now if we push Z, we box select these vertices, we box select these vertices, and then we want the very bottom one. Okay, so we go back to 7, we push extrude, which is E, to the X axis, and we come out about halfway into this canopy. Give or take. Okay. And we scale to the Y. And actually we're using more of the bottom for the body reference at this point. So we come right about there. Okay. We push Z. Now what you notice is that we got a hole there. And we put that hole there on purpose because that's going to be the start of our canopy. Okay, now I deselect. I'm going to angle this. We're going to box select this vertex, and we're going to box select this vertex. We're going to push our 7 again, and we're going to push our Z. And now we're just looking at the ones that are highlighted. So we're going to push scale to the Y, and we're going to bring those over right about almost to the outside of the canopy. Not totally, but pretty close. Okay. Then we're going to go to 1. We're going to push Z. We're going to grab this on the Z. And we're going to come down just a little bit. And we're kind of guessing because we're looking fuzzy. We could actually back it out a little bit. And I might have needed to, I could always throw an edge loop in here. In fact, that might be a good point to show you how to do an edge loop thing. The only thing I don't like about edge loops, like I said, is if you use them a lot, sometimes you got to use them, but if you use them a lot, you're going to have a lot of vertices. And, well, actually, we're on 139 vertices and 257 edges, so we're not, but you can see we just have a very small part of this plane done, so I'm just guessing this thing's going to go into about 10 to 15,000 vertices, no problem. Okay, what I was wanting to show you is we put the cursor over this back set of faces in the center here, and we push Control R. Okay, that's our edge loop. We're going to push A because I just want it centered there. That's fine. Oops, right click it, left click it. Okay, and come in here, push Z. We're going to box select these, and we're going to grab that to the Z. Whoopsie, I got a vertex down here, so we need to deselect it. Okay, let's do this again. Let's box select right here. Let's grab to the Z, and let's move that up a little bit. Look from the top. Scale to the Y, maybe just a hair in to put a little bit. There's not there's not too much of a curve on this window looking down on it. A little bit. It's more of a curve. More of a curve from the side. We go one. Okay. And what we're not doing is we're not paying attention to the body down here on the bottom, but that's alright. Z, we'll box this. These two. And actually, I think, let's deselect that. I actually think we're to the point on the bottom where we could just grab the bottom vertice, grab it on the Z. Right about there. Grab this one. See, right about there. The only thing you got to watch on this is that sometimes what you end up having is it looks kind of triangled if you don't watch it. You want to kind of try to keep a round shape, so sometimes you want to grab more than just one vertice. But that doesn't look too awful bad, and like I said, once you smooth it, that's where the real test comes, when you smooth it. You smooth it out and you got some kind of a bend in a triangle, then you might have to go back and work with some of the other vertices to round this out. Okay, let's see this. Let's box it. Let's extrude it, E. On the X, let's bring this out, and you'll notice everything kind of comes straight. Let's go about halfway again. Select A. Let's grab this bottom one. Grab the Z. Let's bring it just a hair down. This body's almost getting to where we're gonna hit, or it's gonna start sloping back up here real shortly. Okay, now on this one, let's grab the top. Nope. I was actually selecting the vertice. I wasn't trying to. I was trying to box it, but I actually grabbed the vertice. Okay, let's take this. Let's grab this to the Z. Let's come down. About there. Maybe a hair more, because there's a little bit of curve there. Okay, let's look from the top. I'll zoom out of here so you can see this. Let's push S and Y. Let's scale to the Y. And let's put that curve right about there. Push A, push Z, and you can see we're making our little shape for our windscreen. And then we'll figure out, I might have to dig out my camera and my model so I can show you. Because I want to reference, like I said, the cockpit. So I want to see what this, I actually want to see, we're going to get to the point, we're going to stop. Let's do one more row, finish this segment up. Push Z, bring it up a hair. Let's box this in. Let's push extrude E to the X. Let's bring it right to the edge of that canopy. Okay. And if you notice, our bottom is actually basically good. So we're going to leave that be. We're going to push and select. And actually, let's box this. Let's grab Z. Grab on Z, and let's bring it down to about there. Almost to the other vertice, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Let's bring it there. And I think we need to probably box these two. Grab them to the Z, bring them up, bring that one up just about like that. Let's see, box this one. Grab a Z, bring it up a hair. Okay, now let's grab these back two again. Let's go to the top. And let's scale these to the Y. If you notice, we're almost to these other vertices, which might be a problem a little bit. Let's stop there. Let's grab, let's not grab that one. Let's deselect, that's box. And then let's come down here and box on this one. And let's scale to the Y, and let's move those out just a hair. Let's move those out to the rail line. Okay, let's box select. I left clicked after it. Okay, that's box. Let's click A again. A. Right click A. There we go. Okay, box. And box. There we go. Okay, let's scale to the Y again. Let's bring that out a little bit. Let's call that good right there. And then if you Z it in, if you notice what we're kind of doing here, let's go from the side. We're basically setting this up to have a an edge. Excuse me. Alrighty, we're setting this up to have an edge for this canopy. For the back part of this canopy, we're setting up a canopy rail, basically, is what we're doing. And we left this area in here so we can actually draw in this canopy frame. Because I think it's a lot easier just to draw it. And we're gonna work on that. Whoops. Put Z. Push 1. Let's go to object mode. Let's push deselect. Let's come up, save this, save as. We're actually going to save this as a 6. Because it's a whole different section of the airplane. Okay, so now that I saved this as a 6, this is where we'll start on the next lesson. And we'll work on this canopy. And then once we do this canopy a little bit and stuff, we will figure out this body with the canopy. Because the wings is going to be another thing that, if the way he drew this, these wings aren't going to line up perfectly, so we're going to have to kind of balance it in the middle. We're going to have to play with this nose a little bit to get this nose where we want it in conjunction with these wings and stuff. Because, like I said, his little side profile, he actually has the body a hair longer than what he does on the top. So we might have to consult some more pictures to decide which is more accurate, and or, like I said, balance it out in the middle and stuff. We'll end up, you know, this might not be exactly 100% perfect to the real airplane, but no model is. Even a real model is a facsimile of another object. Everything isn't always perfectly in scale. So let's, I think I want to leave this one on its side profile. We already saved it. So join me in the next lesson, and thank you for watching. And next lesson I think will be 10. I think this is 9 that I just finished, but if not, I'll label it right. So we'll see you in the next lesson.